All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity for me to speak before you this afternoon. My name is Hanny Chrysolite. I'm a researcher at the World Resources Institute. We are a research organization. We have regional offices at several locations all over the world, but I myself is based in Indonesia. So today I will be presenting on long-term low-emission development strategies, lesson learned from other countries. So I think this will complement well with Ms. Brille Anderson's presentation previously. And even though I will be speaking on long-term strategies, I really hope that my presentation wouldn't go too long. So this is the outline of what I will be presenting today. First, I will be sharing on the urgency and benefits of developing long-term low-emission development strategies, or LEDs in short. And then I will also mention countries that have submitted their long-term strategies to the UNFCCC. And I will share the lesson learned from this submission. And then I will also specifically share a lesson from Indonesia, because I've also been supporting the government of Indonesia in preparing an initiative called Low Carbon Development Initiative, which could be a basis for Indonesia's long-term strategy. Okay, so first on the urgency. We've heard from this morning presentation that the science is very clear. We have heard from recent years there are many scientific reports published, such as the IPCC 1.5 report, as well as UNEP emission gap report, that it is urgent for countries to take more ambitious actions, and that limiting global temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius is very crucial. Otherwise, we will receive catastrophic impacts for our world. And that also means it requires a lot of actions from different sectors, and we cannot wait until 2030. And when we see all NDCs that the countries have submitted to UNFCCC, even if they are fully implemented, it wouldn't be enough to achieve 1.5 degrees Celsius global temperature limit. In order for us to meet the 1.5 degrees Celsius, our global net carbon dioxide emissions have to decline by about 45% in 2030 and reaching net zero around 2050. So as shared this morning by Mr. Ambassador, also from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, IPCC report is not a fearful report, but it is hopeful, but it just means it is an invitation for us to take more ambitious action. Limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, it is still possible, but doing so would require transformational and unprecedented changes. So given what science has said, Paris Agreement has invited countries to submit long-term strategy, or they call it mid-century long-term low greenhouse gas emission development strategies by 2020. This strategy could be used as a way for a country to revise their ambition and to reflect the transformation needed in order to limit our global temperature. So mid-century here means planning for 3 decades ahead. Of course, it's challenging for us as humans to predict what will happen in the next decades, but the basic idea isn't to have one best policy scenario that we could implement until 2050, but the basic idea is to explore what could happen in the future. So to create a common vision for us in order to be able to achieve that global temperature limit, and to stress test policy alternatives and develop robust and adaptive plans. So yeah, with that, now is the time for action for countries, because what we do today really matters to the world in the future. So as mentioned also before, by 2020, countries are invited to communicate new or updated NDCs, and this also linked with the invitation to submit a long-term strategy. So these two processes should be seen as a way for countries to update what their climate targets should look like, and that should also reflect what we would like to see by 2050. So there's the urgency, but at the same time, there are also benefits when countries have submitted their long-term low-emission development strategies. So first, on top of giving an idea for a country on the scale of transformation needed to bring national climate action in line with the global ambition, second, it also informs what kind of decisions that need to be taken today to prepare for future risks and uncertainties and avoid lock-ins on high carbon infrastructures. It also gives an analysis on what sort of trade-offs are there and provide cost-benefit analysis. So not just what kind of costs that countries should bear, but also benefits for the countries. So when countries start to think about long-term vision for their own country, they could also maximize the co-benefits. So not just for climate, but also for other goals, like social goals and economic growth. Like for example, France notes that their energy transition and development of a low-carbon economy will also allow the country to support growth and GDP over the next 2 decades and increase the number of jobs in the country. So there are many benefits of having long-term climate strategies, not just for climate, but also for other goals. Next, which is also important, having a long-term strategy provides the right signals for all actors so that they know the country is fully committed to bold actions toward climate actions. This includes business investments, particularly those related to long-term investment horizon. Like Canada and the US in their submissions of long-term strategies, they say that the strategies provide market signals for investors that their economies are headed to a low emissions future. Mexico and Benin also discuss these economic resources and the financing mechanisms that will be needed to implement their long-term strategy. Next, long-term strategies also support just transitions for affected communities that are tied to a high carbon economy. So sooner or later, countries will be moving towards low carbon economy, and there will be communities that are affected by this change. And so having a long-term strategy gives insights for these communities to prepare the alternative livelihoods when they have to transition to a low carbon economy. Like for instance, Canada, in their plan, it discusses some plans for the indigenous communities and northern remote communities that are reliant on fossil fuel generating energy. And next, long-term strategies also identify opportunities to help drive innovation and technological breakthroughs for low-carbon technology. Like the UK emphasizes the importance of innovation to meet their targets, taking advantage of new market and employment opportunities that came out of this new technology. Yeah, so these are the countries that have submitted their long-term strategies to the UNFCCC. So Canada, United States, Mexico, the UK, Benin, Germany, France, Czech Republic, Ukraine, Japan, Fiji, and Republic of Marshall Islands. Out of these 12 countries, 7 are G20 countries. So these are some lessons learned from the countries that have submitted their long-term strategies. This, of course, may look different from other countries, but as also been shared by Ms. Brille Anderson, some of these include securing political decision. This is important because it provides a first step to kickstart the process of an LTS, or long-term development strategy. Secondly, defining objectives. So this means, creating a common vision of what the country would envision in 2050, where they want to, what kind of goals they want to achieve not just climate goals, but maybe you tie it with sustainable development goals. And number 3 is defining scope and content. This include modeling, projections, as well as analysis and scenarios development into the future. And also defining what kind of priorities the countries would take after having this sort of analysis, like cost-benefit analysis also. And number 4 is, not less important, is collecting inputs from various stakeholders and engagement, because this will really help really sharpening the draft that's been put together by policymakers. And number 5 is establishing review and revision so that this could reflect the kind of trends or technology that happen over time. So linking long-term strategies with NDCs. These two shouldn't be like two separate documents, but rather NDCs should be stepping stones toward achieving vision laid out in long-term strategies. So it should support transformational change rather than incremental change. So countries are invited to think first of what they want to achieve in the future and then use NDCs as strategies on how to achieve that long-term strategy. Yeah, so I guess this is also just to summarize what I've shared in previous slides, some lessons learned from the submissions. Number 1 is setting a long-term vision and identify strategy objectives. So a long-term vision is essential to guide decisions and frame policy priorities. While countries' long-term strategies might differ, strategies submitted so far are united by common objectives, that is to limit the global temperature goal. That also include informing the sort of near-term and long-term planning and investments, presenting what kind of actions that should be taken for low emissions development, and directing policies at national and sectoral levels. Second is consider building on an existing strategy. Sometimes when there's an invitation to submit a document, it is quite easy to have a document that is totally separated from other sectoral plans. But by building on an existing strategy, like for example a national development plan, that would optimize resources and ensure buy-in from key institutions, among other benefits. Like, for example, Benin, France, and Mexico, they submitted their strategies that were originally mandated by their national laws. And number 3 is engaging stakeholders, of course, but if we want to have a transformation, ensuring buy-in from other sectors are very important, including private sector. Number 4 is reflecting links between climate and development. So the strategies that I've submitted so far have mentioned actions that are not just good for climate mitigation plans, but also for energy security, for economic goals, and so on. So like actions such as shifting to clean energy, improving energy efficiency and demand side management, sustainable consumption, they all have co-beneficial links between climate and development. And next is crafting flexible and adaptive policy measures with multiple future pathways. As I mentioned before, it is very hard for us to predict what could happen in the future. And so having multiple pathways could be just opportunities for countries so that they don't have to follow just one pathway, but rather having it an adaptive policy measure so that they could adapt it from time to time. And number 6, also related to number 5, that is invest in key climate actions that make future options possible. So yeah, it's the same way, we need to have climate actions that we could observe over time, whether it is the most efficient climate actions for the country. And then lastly is to systemize monitoring, revision, and learning so that we could adapt the plan with the current trends and situation. So yeah, and last I want to share a little bit about what Indonesia is currently doing. just about 2 years ago, we launched an initiative called the Low Carbon Development Initiative. This is an initiative that is linked to the midterm development plan in Indonesia. It is initiated by the Ministry of Planning, and they have projections until year 2045. This could be a good basis for Indonesia's long-term strategy, and they also did multiple scenarios for long-term strategy. And basically, the key message here is that all the low-carbon development scenarios result in higher economic growth than the base case scenario. So this really shows that climate actions as well as economic growth could go hand in hand when we chose the policies carefully. A key lesson here is also is that there is a strong political will from the Ministry of Planning to adopt this initiative. So that's also one of the reasons why this initiative could progress until today. Several policies that were included in the scenarios include advancing a transition to renewable sources of energy and away from coal. And then next is a full enforcement of forest, palm oil, mining, and peatland moratorium. And then increasing land productivity and increasing energy efficiency, as well as abiding to committed targets in water, fisheries, and biodiversity. So when Indonesia exercises these policies, it results in many benefits, not just greenhouse gas emission reductions, but also GDP growth and 15 million jobs opportunities for the country by 2045. So this is just some resources that are available if you would like to learn more on long-term climate strategies. The WRI has a set of working papers as well as some expert perspectives that you could find on this website. And there are also some case studies, papers, and others that you could also learn. And I'll be happy to talk more after this session with you if you also have any things that you want to share. So I guess I would like to end my presentation with a quote from CEO of the European Climate Foundation, Ms. Florence Tubiana. She said that although having a plan may not be a recipe for success, not having one is a guarantee of failure. So I hope we'll have a good discussion after this, and thank you so much again for this opportunity.